Hi everyone, it's Niamh here and welcome to my art journaling channel. Today we're going to be attempting a slightly trickier page than usual, and it's creating masks using lace cutting. So one of my favourite things to do in journals is to do sort of lace cut pages and cutting out different designs. But I've never really done a page like this before, and I'm going to be totally upfront and honest with you. This is my second attempt at doing this page. You can actually see where I've cut out the first attempt because I cut through the stencil and did something really silly with it. So if you are going to do something like this, I would highly recommend that you do a template on a piece of paper first and play around with it until you're happy with the cuts. I did this on a thin piece of paper, and because I was using the Dina Wakley stamp as a model, I could stamp it out a few times and think about it. But you can already see here, I've done my first few cuts and I haven't cut in the right place. So I'm going around and I'm thickening up the lines that I need to cut around. And that's a really important thing. You can see I've just cut off her face and I don't have anything to actually join the mask to the bottom of the page. So one of the things you really need to think about when you're doing lace cut pages is you always need to have something touching an edge. You need to have it anchored in some way, shape or form. Now if you do get overzealous with your cutting, like I did, you can use some masking tape, that's all I've got there, and stick it over the top on both sides, and that will help secure what you're doing until you until you're finished, I suppose. It's going to help secure your page. It helps fix any mistakes. So masking tape is a great way to do that. If I was doing it again, I would probably colour in anything that I was going to cut out black or something, color it in different color, so it was really obvious what I was cutting out and what I wasn't. Once you sort of get into the flow of it, you can kind of relax your rules somewhat with yourself, but practice, particularly with something like this. If you're using a shape that you know that you're going to cut out around and it needs to be a particular way, it's really important you know where you're cutting. Have a look at a stencil and see how they're all connected to the edges. So the official term for it is bridges to the end, or bridges to the edge. So that's what you're looking for. So you can see here as I'm cutting this out, everything now is connected to the top and bottom edge. So I'm cutting out those little bits between the butterfly. In the crown is extending into my border, and I'm just cutting out the little triangles. So everything's sort of secured as much as possible. Excuse me. So the whole idea for this came from when I was looking through Instagram and I saw an image of someone had drawn a picture of a face and had a mask stuck over it. I thought it would be really interesting if you could remove the mask so you could have it sort of lay over the page. So that's where the idea sort of popped into my head. And doing frustrating things like this sometimes is really good. It is really frustrating, don't get me wrong. I was extremely frustrated with this on a number of occasions. I thought, why are you bothering? Just don't even worry about it. But the project had me interested. I knew it had potential, so I wanted to keep up with it. So sometimes even just walking away from a project for a little bit, having a think about it and coming back is a good idea. But it's good to challenge yourself and to do something that's difficult, because I can always go back and do something easy afterwards and something satisfying, but the satisfaction you get of actually getting this right is really worthwhile. But practice, that's my one tip for this, is if you're doing it, have a practice go. Fold a piece of paper in half, something that's easy to trim, draw it out a few times till you're really happy with what you need to cut. Don't do what I do, actually draw out thick lines about the bits you need to cut on either side, so you have got those connections to top and bottom, and it will save you a little bit of frustration. I'm using an X-Acto knife to cut this out. It's really important that when you're using doing this, that you have a really sharp knife to cut it out. I'm also doing it the 6x16 Wakely journal, which has got really thick paper in it, which is perfect for doing this because it's thick and it will stand up to having quite thin cuts taken out of it. But it's also, you do need a little bit of pressure to cut through. So if you have a Dilutions journal, I would suggest maybe starting in that if you're doing some lace cutting, because again, the paper in that's quite robust, but it's much thinner and it's much easier to cut. It doesn't have the texture in it either. So maybe have a go at the Dilutions one if you're sort of just starting out having a go doing this. If you're interested in doing lace cut pages, but you don't want to do something so involved, I do have lots of lace cut pages on my YouTube channel that you can just look, Niamh Baly lace cut. And it'll be much more relaxing probably than watching this one. So to make life easier for me, I decided once I'd done all my hard work on that front page, I wasn't going to spend too much time on the back page. So I'm actually using something that's pretty special to me, because this is collage rice paper that I've designed for Scrap FX, and the links are in the description box below. So I've done all the hard work in doing a background before, and I can just use the collage paper and stick it down. It's a really handy way to do backgrounds really easily, and to have something that you don't need to worry about all that much. I also decided to save myself some time, effort and stress by stamping the image onto some paper and cutting out around it. Now the reason I did that was I could just glue that down on the page and line it up exactly to my mask on the other page. If I tried to stamp that and stamped it in the wrong place, it would be really, really frustrating. So by having it already cut out and I just need to glue it down where it needs to be, is so much easier. So again, where you can simplify your life, it's really, really important that you do that. Finally, I decided I wanted some colour on my image, so I'm just going in with the scribble sticks and doing that overpainting technique, which is basically just choose random colours and shade it in. The colours kind of come from the colours in the background, and I am leaving her hair mostly that book page buff colour, just to sort of give a visual break between the busy background and her face. You can also see me lining up the page and just flipping it backwards and forwards and seeing if I'm happy with it. And with all my lace cut pages, I do that. I make sure that what I'm seeing through the lace cut page and what I'm seeing on the background page works, and that I'm happy with it. Because I was working on book paper and it wasn't quite dry underneath, I did managed to rip the paper somewhat, but I fixed that with a washi heart that I just stuck over the top. So washi is your friend, cutting out another shape is your friend, and the great thing is, because the butterfly mask is there, you couldn't actually see it. Now you can vaguely see where I had that masking tape on the front, but I'm just going in with, again, this is a metallic scribble stick, which I haven't really used before, and they look amazing on black. So if you've got metallic scribble sticks, have a go at them, because they just make everything pop. Yeah, I was just obsessed with them that night. That's the first time I've ever used them on the black. It's like, why haven't I done this before? This is amazing. So behind, while I was doing that, I decided I was going to write a quote. I was going to bring out my white paint pen, and I thought, no, use a metallic. So I've got the quote, behind every mask is a face and behind every face is a story, which I thought fitted in really well with this page. Particularly, it kind of summed up the frustration I had with this page too, because behind that face is a story. It took me 2-3 goes. I had the idea, I planned the idea, I started to cut out the first page and I cut through the entire image, then I had to cut it again, and so on. So there was a story to it, but it's one of those things that once you've done something quite frustrating and you finish it, you do get a real sense of satisfaction and, wow, I did that. You know, I worked through that, I creative problem solved, and I got to a place that I really like. So yeah, all I can do is suggest that you, at some stage, have a go at something you think, oh, I'm not sure about that. Whether it be an online class or, you know, using a color combination that's, you know, outside your comfort zone, just challenge yourself to do something outside your comfort zone and see what you come up with, because I can guarantee you that you will surprise yourself. You'll come up with something. Even if it's something you don't like, you will learn something about the process. I've certainly learnt to plan when it comes to doing lace cut pages. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, bye for now.